Thanks for downloading the 15th recording or episode of ASMR Sleep Station. Um, as usual, this is going to be kind of an experimental recording. I'm near a roadway, so hopefully there's some nice vehicular sounds in the background. And I'm also experimenting with the bitrate conversion. I don't even know what that means, but it's a setting. Okay, so I forgot all the emails and the reviews, so unfortunately I'll have to catch up with that next time with one big feedback. But there were some good emails. I don't remember them all off the top of my head, but lots of very good feedback. Um, Thank you to everyone who did that, sent in emails and left reviews, and I will mention them next time. So I'm gonna try to just keep it to straight content, because if you pay attention, this this podcast isn't updated very regularly, and it's been really slow lately, almost getting slower and slower, so I apologize for that. And I mentioned it before, but I'm going to try to, hopefully it'll work, but I'm going to try to make multiple recordings at once right now. So I'm gonna try to keep it as focused as I can. I have oh man, I don't know why, but I can't open certain documents now. I had a document full of things that I was reading from. And I don't know where it is. Okay, so I got some articles that I've been reading from before, and the one that I really wanted to read from is not, I can't find it. It's oh well. I'll just pick up where I left off with the Are You Living in a Computer Simulation article that was published in Philosophical Quarterly by Nick Bostrom. If you're interested in existential things, he writes about that. And if you're interested in AI, he's been in the news a lot lately. He's quoted alongside other popular opinions, I suppose. There's, I think Elon Musk and Bill Gates both are more or less anti-artificial intelligence. And Nick Bostrom, I don't think in response to them, but he writes about these things too, or he talks about it at least. Personally, I don't really care about things like that. And if I can just kind of continue a quick sidebar. I think it's really interesting to think about artificial intelligence, and if kind of like what's discussed in the simulation argument, if technology continues to a point, it may be inevitable. That's an interesting thought, and it may also be kind of the end game of technology. Once computers can start designing themselves and have a certain unrestrained autonomy to recreate themselves, then there's a lot of possibilities there. It's very interesting. However, for the time we're in right now, I don't really see it as a useful thing to worry about or question too much. This is in regards to only hard artificial intelligence. Soft artificial intelligence is much different, and it's more along the lines of intelligent systems that can evaluate and make decisions on very large quantities of data. Big data interfaces with this a lot, and big computer systems. Things like, I don't know, if you wanted to have a soft AI run traffic directing or something like that, or maybe to organize tens of thousands of customers into groups to target products to, or to make decisions about systems like that are here now, and they're very interesting, and I'm sure they're going to grow a lot. Will they reach self-awareness and higher levels of intelligence? It's probably almost impossible with our current processor infrastructure, or is it architecture? I forget which word is more appropriate, but those potentials are there to really advance that soft AI technology, but hard AI is questionable. And I just made a comment the other day about how it's kind of funny that some, I guess, technologists and journalists and other people that are interested in this and talk about it, but we don't even understand the human mind, which I think is obviously more important, and it's the only reference point we have for understanding intelligence and consciousness, and it may or may not approximate the kind of substrate that we would need for a hard AI. So that's my, even though I still like reading about these things, it's fun to think about, but to see it as a possibility, or I guess something that's likely to happen. Some people say 15, 20 years. I think that's the earliest numbers, and then the outside numbers are, multiple decades away. To say that and then say it's something we should worry about is, I don't know, it's kind of funny to me. But everyone is entitled to their opinion, so I suppose it makes for good reading. Let's, I think we went over the core of the simulation argument, and just to reiterate, this was in section 4. I don't remember how far I got, but you can always read it yourself. By the way, if you've never downloaded this before and you're listening to it now, and you somehow made it this far and you don't know what's going on, I try to make relaxing recordings that are sometimes full of me yammering on about nothing, or other times I have just random articles that I find, and sometimes I literally grab a random Wikipedia article. Like, I don't know if I did it, but I grabbed one and I kept it in case I needed to use it. So I have one of those on standby. Maybe I'll read that next. So I grab some random articles, and then I get some things that I personally enjoy, like the simulation argument. So if this is weird or disorienting, it's not really meant to be listened to for its content. It's just supposed to be the sound of somebody whispering, and hopefully you're able to disengage enough to let your own mind wander and rest or pass out or whatever you're trying to do. So, anyways, I'll pick up on section 5 from the Nick Bostrom article. And section 5 is entitled A Bland Difference Principle. Okay. We can take further step and conclude the conditional on the truth of 3. One's credence in the hypothesis that one is in a simulation should be close to unity. More generally, if we knew that a fraction of X of all observers with human-type experiences live in simulations, and we don't have any information that indicate that our own particular experiences are more or less likely than other human-type experiences appears to have been implemented in vivo rather than in machina. Or is it machina? Then our credence that we are in a simulation should equal x, which is I don't know what that term CR means. CR of sim, and then some function. The graphics are really bad on this equation. I can't read it all, but equals x equals x. Yeah, I'm not even sure what that function is. It was probably in the previous section. Well, anyways, I'll just keep going, it doesn't matter. This step is sanctioned by a very weak indifference principle. Let us distinguish two cases. The first case, which is easiest, is where all the minds in question are like your own in the sense that they are exactly qualitatively identical to yours. They have exactly the same information and the same experiences that you have. The second case is where the minds are like each other, only in the loose sense of being the sort of minds that are typical of human creatures, but they are qualitatively distinct from one another, and each has a distinct set of experiences. I maintain that even in the latter case, where the minds are qualitatively different, the simulation argument still works, provided that you have no information that bears on the question of which of the various minds are simulated and which are implemented biologically. I have to move, so hopefully it doesn't make a lot of noise. This microphone picks up clicking noises better than anything. It's like I touch one button and it just, wow. Okay. Alright, so continuing on with let's see, the second sentence here, or the second paragraph. A detailed defense of stronger principle, which implies the above stands for both cases as trivial special instances, has been given in the literature. Space does not permit a recapitulation of that defense here, but we can bring out one of the underlying intuitions by bringing to our attention an analogous situation of a more familiar kind. Suppose that X% of the population has a certain genetic sequence S within the part of their DNA commonly designated as junk DNA. Suppose further that there are no manifestations of S, short of what would turn up in a gene assay, and that there are no known correlations between having S and any observable characteristic. Then, quite clearly, unless you have had your DNA sequenced, it is rational to assign a credence of X% to the hypothesis that you have S. And this is so quite irrespective of the fact that the people who have S have qualitatively different minds and experiences from the people who don't have S. This is in parentheses, they are different simply because all humans have different experiences from one another, not because of any known link between S and what kind of experience one has. reasoning holds if S is not the property of having a certain genetic sequence, but instead the property of being in a simulation, assuming only that we have no information that enables us to predict any difference between the experiences of simulated minds and those of the original biological minds. The same reasoning holds if S is the property of having certain genetic sequence, but instead the property of being in a simulation. Oh wait, I just reread that. It should be stressed that the bland indifference principle expressed by pound, the pound symbol, prescribes indifference only between hypotheses about which observer you are, when you have no information about which of these observers you are. It does not, in general, prescribe indifference between hypotheses when you lack specific information about which of the hypotheses is true. In contrast, the Laplacian and other more ambitious principles of indifference, it is therefore immune to Bertrand's paradox and similar predicaments that tend to plague indifference principles of unrestricted scope. Readers familiar with the doomsday argument may worry that the bland principle of indifference invoked here is the same assumption that is responsible for getting the doomsday argument off the ground, and that the counterintuitiveness of some of the implications of the latter incriminates or casts doubt on the validity of the former. This is not so. The doomsday argument rests on a much stronger and more controversial premise, namely one that should reason as if one were a random sample from a set of all people who will ever have lived, past, present, and future, even though we know that we are living in the early 21st century rather than at some point in a distant past or future. The bland indifference principle, by contrast, applies only to cases where we have no information about which group of people we belong to. If betting odds provide some guidance to rational belief, it may also be worth to ponder. Then if everybody were to place a bet on whether they are in a simulation or not, then if people use the bland principle of indifference and consequently place their money on being in a simulation, if they know that's where almost all people are, then almost everyone wins their bets. If they bet on not being in a simulation, then almost everyone will lose. It seems that the bland indifference principle be heeded. Further, one can consider a sequence of possible solutions in which an increasing fraction of all people live in simulations, 98, 99%, 99.9%, 99.9999%, and so on. As one approaches the limiting case in which everybody is in a simulation, from which one can deductively infer that one is in a simulation oneself, it is plausible to require that the credence of one assigns to being in a simulation gradually approach the limiting case of complete certainty in a matching manner. This is section 6 now. Section 6, Interpretation. The possibility represented by Proposition 1. almost certainly fail to reach a post-human level, for virtually no species at our level of development become post-human, and it is hard to see any justification for thinking that our own species will be especially privileged or protected from future disasters. Conditional on one, therefore, we must give high credence to doom, the hypothesis that humankind will go extinct before reaching a post-human level. There's an equation there. I'm not going to bother reading it because I can't, it's not coming out well. One can imagine hypothetical situations where we have such evidence as would trump knowledge of, there's another function there. For example, if we discovered that we're about to be hit by a giant meteor, this might suggest that we had been exceptionally unlucky. We could then assign credence to doom, that's the term doom, larger than our expectation of the fraction of human-level civilizations that fail to reach post-humanity. In the actual case, however, we seem to lack evidence for thinking that we are special in this regard, for better or worse. Proposition 1 doesn't by itself imply that we are likely to go extinct soon, only that we are unlikely to reach a post-human stage. The possibility is compatible with us remaining at or somewhat above our current level of technological development for a long time before going extinct. Another way for one to be true is if it is likely that technological civilization will collapse, primitive human societies might then remain on Earth indefinitely. Just a side note, if that thought interests you, certain limiting factors or just a failure for intelligent species to advance, or I should say primitive species to advance to intelligence, then oh man, I'm drawing a big blank. Wow, I had it in my head and then it left. I probably need a nap myself. I can't even think of the author's name. I feel like I've mentioned it before. I'll bring that up on the next one, but it's like a something in the sky. I can't think of the name of it. Oh, that's terrible. Yeah, I'll bring it up. Hopefully at a later time. Maybe I'll even read from some of it. But there's different zones where intelligence and technology are limited. This is like on a galactic scale, so you just can't have certain types of technologies, and the story involves some, high-speed travel, like, what do they call that? Luminal, post-luminal travel, hyperluminal. And if you, let's say, have a spaceship that's sufficiently advanced to travel at really high speeds and you enter into these zones, things won't work as well and you can get trapped. That's very interesting. That's not really the focus focus of the story, but that idea is interesting, that you can remain technologically stagnant but still survive as a species. And if anybody's still listening to these things, or to what I'm saying right now, if this gives you any existential dread, or it bothers you to think about this, which I didn't even consider before because I just like this topic, but if the topic bothers you, let me know and I can avoid things like this in the future. So I'll mark off where I'm leaving off, and I'm just gonna make one recording after another, and hopefully that works out smoothly. That way, even if it takes me a while to make another recording, I'll have this backup